Today marks 1634 day of daily lessons, day reflections. And today I was reflecting about an analogy that you can be a rock or you can be a sponge. And which one do you want to be? Do you want to be a rock or do you want to be a sponge? And I was reflecting that every single person will choose differently, a rock or a sponge. It depends on the context that you will think about that rock or that sponge. Because the first one I thought, okay, I want to be a sponge. I want to be a sponge because I want to absorb wisdom. I want to absorb knowledge. I want to absorb understanding. At that moment, I felt like I don't want to be a rock where all the information just bypasses because rock believes that everything they already know. There's nothing to develop it. They are already solid. That's it. And this is a terrible place to be in. I thought, okay, rock is it's a terrible place to be in. But then I started reflecting. When something terrible happens, when something needs to really take responsibility, and really, when you really need to do the right thing, it's better to be a rock solid, a foundation, than being a sponge. When pressure kicks in, and you start to really to absorb all the pressure, and that changes that pressure you. And I think that's not a great place to be in when pressure starts to change you. Pressure is supposed to really uplift you, not to really deform you. And I thought, like, okay, so I said that I want to be a sponge, but now I don't want to really act as sponge under the pressure. I want to really act as a rock, as a brick, as a stone under pressure. Stick to that solid understanding of who you are, not deform because of it. So realize that at the moment that we need to understand that we need to be different kind of person and different kind of station. What it means when we seek understanding, we need to be open. When you're really under different stakes, different hard stakes, pressure, we need to be ready, hard as stone, to really go through that situation. But now when we start to really act exactly the same way in every single situation, rock every single station, when we receive information, we are already rigid. So no, I don't need that information. So that's not okay. So I think that's the most important part is that asking, okay, where I need to be a rock and where I need to be a sponge. I think that's a good question to ask because now we're able to really adapt who we are in different situations. Just we as the same person, we just act a little bit differently based on what is required of us in that situation. So we'll share like just a couple examples of what I think I believe where we need to be a rock and where we need to be sponges and where is that beneficial. So when is it better to be a rock? So when we core values is supposed to be a rock, those ethics. Because everything changes around us. At least we have a stable inner world. Our values, our direction, our vision, our morals are always the same. So life puts us in great situations and bad situations, but to be able to act in accordance with our values, and that's the beautiful thing. Number two is boundaries with people. Those are rock solid supposed to be. So we're supposed to be like rock with boundaries. We're not supposed to be malleable, adaptable. Non-negotiables are non-negotiables for a reason, and I think that needs to be rock solid. If they're not able to really to go through those boundaries, they hit the stone. I mean, sometimes we need to walk away and rather than try to adapt. Sometimes we can be reasonable and ask you if those boundaries are reasonable. But if those boundaries are reasonable, sometimes it's a bare minimum. And if those are not met, we need to be rock solid because of that. Number three, peer pressure or social influence. Again, if we are a sponge under peer pressure, social influence, we will change. Sometimes even who we are, and we'll put masks on it. And that's not good. What we need to is to really um, have the constant understanding of who we are and acting according to who we are based on our identity, based on our alignment, where we want to go, rather than adjust it based on a sponge. So rock, well, we want to be a rock when we experiencing pressure. Number four is long-term commitment, career, direction, life goals. We want to be a rock solid. We want to really say that this is my long-term commitment, that this is my calling, this is my direction. I'm going to that no matter what's going on in my life. I don't want to be a sponge and absorb everything, and then, of course, not do the right thing and then absorb. One person says this is the best thing, other person says this is the best thing. So now, because I'm sponge, I absorb those, and then now I go to one direction, to other direction. No, rock solid is like when you really choose, when you really reflect, when you really have the clarity, and you become rock solid, and then go to that long term commitment. Number five is manipulation or misinformation. I think that sometimes we need to be a rock solid when we're really experiencing new information. Uh, and I think that's a beautiful thing with something that we have ability to really say again. This is a thing that I need to be rock solid, because I think sometimes we just are too fast. I think that I'm a very sponge in information, but I realize that sometimes it's good to have a little bit that rockness in you to really not to believe in things that is not believable and being too naive. And I think that sometimes understanding that you are sponge with information, but when there is a lot of things in media, I think that we need to understand. Okay, I need to be a little bit more like rock and start to believe things and really validate things. Because I think that if we are fully sponge all the time and we really start to believe everything, that's not good as well. And I think that's for misinformation and we understanding. So this is a part is that being a sponge is great, but like I think that the most important part we need to understand, okay, we need to validate that information, understand where that information is coming from. Because when I remember, I looked about business ideas about and who promotes it, the business, and what is speaking up bad about the business. I realized that a lot of times people who really speak bad about the business are the opponents, and that's what they want. And people who really speak pro business is something that they are benefiting. So it's biased people, and I think that we need to really have find ability how to validate information based on neutral understanding, not on biased understanding. Number six of why to be a rock is high stakes decisions under pressure. Again, when the high stakes happening, we need to be rock solid, execute no matter what, not be humbled by pressure, but being able to read that rock solid. That's extremely important. Have the stability and clarity under pressure. So, what are the better? When is the best better to be a sponge? So, number one is learning new skills. We already discussed learning new skills, new knowledge, really absorbing that, really using that as quickly as possible, rather than everything falls flat on rock solid. Number two, receiving feedback, being able to listen to honest criticism and really able to adjust based on that if it's necessary to do it, rather than I already know everything. You don't know that, or maybe even like when you have so much more knowledge in one field and a person has less knowledge and they come in and share the feedback, and now because they have less experience you don't listen to them. But I think sometimes they could bring some nuances that you never thought about it, and that's how you get better. You listen from everybody rather than putting yourself as pedestal. Number three, understanding other people, empathy. And again, you need to be a sponge. Because sometimes when we are rock solid, we're not able to listen because we believe, and rock solid sometimes is this black and white thinking as well. Because this is it, and you will not able to change anything. While a sponge able to be one way or another. Number four is adapting to new environments, especially at the beginning. We need to really be like sponge. We look into okay, what works, what doesn't in this environment, what kind of skills I need to develop, what kind of communication ways I need to really do. Because people, especially when you're a leader, you need to understand that I learned from my mentor that as a leader, you need to find a way how to communicate with people. Not other people need to really learn how you communicate. Because I thought that I will learn one way of communicating and that will be the most effective. No. Sometimes we need to really learn how to adjust our communication skills because you're not adjusting who you are, you're just adjusting the way how you communicate to the people to make sure that they're able to understand you better. And that's again adapting to your environments, being a sponge. Number five is early stages of anything. Early stages of anything. You need to have that beginner mindset. So when you have beginner mindset, of course, you want to be a sponge, absorb everything. When you know everything, you can become a little more. I think sometimes a clay where you're able to be still soft, not as hard, and after that a while become a brick. And number six is solving complex problems. That means being able to really look into, okay, not what based on what I already know as a rock solid, but what I do not know. And what I do not know is coming from being able to be a sponge, absorb, and then look into for curiosity and find different ways. Being adaptable, being moldable, that's again a beautiful thing. Because better input, better understanding, and better solution. So I think it's a beautiful thing. I think that there's a great reflection is that we need to understand that being a rock is for identity, direction, stability, being a sponge is for intelligence, awareness, adaptability. And the most important part is that knowing which one is which situation or demands which part of you is extremely important. Rather than being one way all the time, being able to adjust based on your current circumstances. So I hope you choose to win and see you tomorrow.